Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, which means it's time for some salty nerds to talk about Star Trek. I am your host for this morning, Matthew Kadish, producer of the Salty Nerd podcast. And we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about episode 3 of Strange New Worlds, and we're going to get a little bit into the Eugenics Wars. That seems to be the kind of topic of both Star Trek Picard and Strange New Worlds that they're like kind of circling around tangentially. I want to welcome my fantastic panel of nerds, my expert Star Trek panel this morning. Before we get going, though, I just want to shout out to some people in the comments. Thank you all for being here. We have 13 people in the comments. We got Anima Confusa, our resident trivia champion. We got Danny's mom, PJO. Nice to see you. We got the Marshal. We got, who else do we got here? We got Quantum Cat. We got Gavin Blackburn. Thank you all for being here this morning. We really appreciate it. Anthony Mark, good to see you, sir. Thomas Potts, Keely Chow, Marks 47. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much. And I just want to let everyone out there know that if you want to support the stream and you like what we do and you like what we say, feel free to give us some super chats. We will always feature those during the stream on screen, so we'll be sure to address those. And Matt Vader 74 is the one in charge of highlighting the comments in the chat, so be extra nice to him. And
is that my only job?
That's your only job. And
is that what I do? Is when somebody calls me a shill, I'm supposed to highlight it?
Yes,
jerks. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So our resident shill, Matt Vader 74, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Ready to shill away. So yeah.
Has that CBS check cleared?
I know they have, I'm still waiting for the money. I don't understand.
And coming to us from a horse ranch in Texas is the very sweaty Danny the Dork Knight LV. How you doing, buddy?
I am pooped, man. I've been up since 6 a.m. taking care of cowboy shiznit, so I welcome the break.
You're actually trying to become Captain Pike, aren't you? Just live down on a ranch,
yeah,
taking care of stuff.
Been watching too much Yellowstone.
And really liking the mustache, Danny. You're one of the few people I know who can pull that off.
Thank you. Yeah, I know as soon as I get home, Cece's gonna make me shave it off, though, so I'm enjoying it while I can.
You look like Jim Gordon from Batman.
Thank you. Yeah, I was rocking like a Magnum PI Hawaiian shirt yesterday on Mike's stream, and
he looked exactly like Magnum PI.
Also, Thomas Potts. It's now the Paramount Nerd podcast.
PNP, baby.
Because we are shills, as is well documented. Yeah. The salty trekker himself. The salty trekker himself, Michael Crawford. How you doing this morning, buddy?
Good. Hanging in there. I know it's hiding behind my baby Yoda there, but I do have my authentic, Tom Paris mutated from Threshold action figure back there on the shelf. So
yeah, the highly evolved state of humanity. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So and it does come with 3 action figure baby salamanders. So
does it really?
It does.
So fun fact, I was the substitute Matthew on Salty Trekker's stream this past week, which was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on your stream. That was a good time. And last but certainly not least, the guy who owes everyone on this panel money, Brian from the Popcast. How you doing,
hold
buddy?
up. I super chatted you $10, Matt, and I super chatted Mike.
Yep, you did give me my $5.
$5. And so I only owe Dork Knight, and I don't know how to pay you, bro. But as of next week, I'll have membership gifts ready, so I'll be able to do that if that's what you want.
Oh, Danny just lost connection because he doesn't want to acknowledge that he heard you. He wants you to.
Real quick. Thomas Potts, who put this comment right here. Wow, Brian isn't late.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah, for once. Yeah, it's the sign of the apocalypse.
It's because I am uploading. We release videos Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So in the morning on Saturdays, I'm trying to get the video out, and you know how it goes. It never goes.
How's that going? Working for you?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Today it was actually ready at 9, but it's in the copyright check phase for the last hour, and so I'm like,
CBS, man.
It might be Paramount this time because some of my clips were a little longer than average, and it's sort of stressing me out. I'm not gonna lie.
Is this
Yeah,
the one
it's,
that the con was for?
Yes, I'm glad we're talking about Eugenics Wars, boys, because my video that came out today is all about how they're probably going to be making a con series. All the clues are pointing to a con series, which
well, I
I'm
mean,
actually
they flat out
not
said
happy.
that they're doing a mini series based off Con, right?
Well, no, they said that a while ago, but then they said they shelved it. But I don't think they shelved it. I think it's in production because Kurtzman recently said there's another series that they're doing, but he wants to be quiet about it. For what reason? He hasn't been quiet about anything.
So real quick, so Danny is in the middle of nowhere. He's been connecting to the internet through his cell phone hotspot. So he's kind of dropping in and out of the stream. Once we get Danny back, we'll add him in. But we're just going to move forward without him, unfortunately. Danny, if you get a chance, just feel free to hop back in. And if you connect, I'll add you. All right, guys. So Strange New Worlds, Episode 3, The Ghosts of Illyria. So I know that based off of the thumbnail for today's live stream, you guys might think I hold a certain opinion about this episode.
No.
Oh, so are you saying that thumbnail's clickbait?
A little bit. I was so happy when I was watching this episode because this felt like a genuine old school Star Trek episode. And it just made me feel good. It made me feel good after an entire 2 seasons of Picard, which went so far off the rails that it was insulting at a certain point to continue watching. And when I was watching this episode, and I liked the previous 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds, but this episode more than any other, I was like, oh, they're doing the whole ship gets infected episode. It felt like real Star Trek to me. And even though I definitely have stuff I'm going to be talking to you guys about that kind of stuck in my craw, overall,
that's close to my name, buddy. You got to be careful about that.
Overall, I felt that this episode, more than any of the other ones that we've seen so far, really nailed the Star Trek formula and made it feel like genuine Star Trek to me. And I felt so happy watching it. So I wanted to go around the panel, get your guys' take on it. Matt Bader 74, what was your take on episode 3?
You stole the words right out of my mouth. It did. It felt like an old school Star Trek episode, much like the first 2 episodes of this series has done. There's some talk out there about how the new writers are just stealing the old style, but I'm so confused because people I think are just refusing to like this show for reasons. I don't get it.
We want it to be like old Trek. Don't make it like old Trek.
Well, yeah, you're just not going to make a lot of people happy because of things. And so far, so good. They're 3 for 3 for me. Nothing's perfect. I understand that, but enjoy what we have. It might not last very much longer. They might go completely the other direction in the next couple episodes. Nobody knows. I always feel like I have to just savor it because I don't know what's going to happen because I'm so gun shy with this stuff. But yeah, so far so good. I enjoyed it. I'm not so sure if I'm on board with the Lon character. She's not coming off well for me. But otherwise, yeah, I'm good. It feels good to have a show that it makes me feel like I can be a Trekkie again right now. So it's nice. It's nice.
Right. All right. Michael, what did you think of episode 3?
I'd say go to Danny first since he's having issues.
Okay, Danny, what did you think of episode 3?
I fixed my issues, but thank you, Mike. I loved it. I don't understand why people I know and respect are hating on it. I just feel like they're hating on it for the sake of hating on it. I mean, it's gosh, it feels so much like the original series, and I love it. I mean, I'm so happy. We'll get into details later, but my overall thoughts were I'm just like Vader said, 3 for 3 as far as I'm concerned. Like this is please don't fuck it up. That's all I want.
Super chat. Let me get this one. Michael Strathmore, $2. Thank you, sir. Una's backstory lifted from DC Fontana's novel. That is a subject that we all are aware of.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to circle back when we're done with our conversation. We'll cover that here in just a little while. Thank you for the reminder.
Vulcan's Glory, right? Was the name
something
of the
like that. Yeah. but we'll
we're
get there.
going to be addressing that. Michael, what was your thoughts on episode 3?
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I thought that at first glance, I was like, okay, so this is their Naked Time / Naked Now, episode. But it did go in a different direction than those episodes, and because it wasn't the disease that exposes everybody, it was just a disease. And I really did like it. I mean, it only exposed a couple of characters, really, if you will. Really, Una and the Doctor, if you will, and to a lesser extent, La'an. And overall, I liked it. But I think that some of the negativity that's coming from good people in the fandom, and I had a lot of discussion about this on my live stream last night.
Yeah, no, I was there for that. I remember.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this is coming from a feeling that it's not that it's that the canonical inconsistencies, right? These things like, oh wait, now they had first contact with the Gorn before Kirk saw the Gorn. The Enterprise looks different. La'an is clear, they've now flat out stated that she's a descendant of Khan. So why wouldn't Spock remember that when they meet up with Khan later on? Why wouldn't anybody mention to Captain Kirk that, oh yeah, I remember when your brother was on the Enterprise, stuff like that. And yeah, I know, Dork, believe me, I've said that a million times. I wish they would just say reboot.
Yeah.
And that would fix everything if they would just call it a freaking reboot. But and that's where most of the negativity from, like Professor Brainy Specs, who's in your audience right now. He's one of the people who's, I love Professor Brainy Specs. Consider him a good friend. He's on my channel all the time, and a good fan. He's a great fan of Trek and everything, but he absolutely can't get past all the inconsistencies with this show when you line it up against TOS. And I think that's where people are they just can't get past that. And honestly, at this point, it's like, to me, it's like, I've said all along, give me a good show, and that's all I care about. And this is a good show.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into some of the continuity issues that this episode brought up a little bit later. But go ahead, Matt.
Super chat.
What was that?
Well, I keep getting too loud in his ear, so.
JS Pina for $1.99. You're still doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space, right? Next week, we are watching campy sci-fi or horror movies, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space is definitely on the list.
Yeah,
so
it's Killer Clowns,
Attack of the
Critters, and the Blob. So.
Oh, nice.
I was going to ask if you did
1980s Blob.
Have you ever done Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? I figured that would be
that is on our list for a future episode. So
Cool.
we're going to be doing attack movies. So it'll be movies with attack in the title. Anyway, last but certainly not least, Brian from the podcast. What did you think?
I've been waiting patiently.
I know you have.
Okay, I'm going to help everyone out here. Ready? Because this is a good TV show, right? It's a very good TV show, right? And so far. And I can tell you from what I've read about the first 5 episodes, at least the first 5 episodes are going to be a good TV show. Guarantee you that. The problems you're having with canon, like biofilters and how long you can store someone in a pattern buffer, and
come on now, we haven't even gotten to that yet.
They didn't know the Gorn, and all that stuff, right? Well, I'm going to help you guys. Ready? I want you to just think back to First Contact and Star Trek Enterprise and imagine at that moment they rebooted Star Trek. Enterprise, they rebooted Star Trek with at First Contact. And from there on, everything you've seen is in a different timeline. It's similar. It's very, very, very similar. Everything's playing out in a very similar way, but there's small changes, because it started with Star Trek Enterprise. And if you like Star Trek Enterprise and you're pissed about the Gorn, well, Gorn are in Star Trek Enterprise, guys. And if you really thought about it, I mean, the Andorian Hemmer, his race was introduced in Star Trek Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
This is a direct descendant of Star Trek Enterprise. And I believe Discovery was a direct descendant of Star Trek Enterprise, which means that they probably just rebooted it in the year 2001. They rebooted it and they didn't tell anybody. And if you think about it that way, if you really do, you think about all that, and then you can really enjoy this amazing science fiction show for being what it is. And you don't got to be pissed all the time.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
Hold on real quick.
So,
Mr. Pena, $1.99. I'll read it.
Super
it's-
chat.
It's pronounced Pena, by the way. That's how I'm going to say it.
no, he said Pena.
Well, no, when he corrects me, I'm going to make it wrong. So it's Pena from now on. Thank you, Mr. Pena. That's very nice of you. Appreciate the $2.
He's just mispronouncing it so that you'll super chat him again.
That's what I'm saying is the show is really good. And the small inconsistencies, you can literally explain them away with a very logical conclusion that the entire franchise was rebooted in 2000.
I will take
I'm with
umbrage
that.
with that because I believe that a lot of that is like headcanon explanation. Like you can say, oh, it's a reboot, or oh, it was rebooted at this point in time. But until the creators actually come out and say it, that's just a theory. So like we have to work from what they give us.
You're 100% right, except for
what they've given us is that this is all supposed to be within the continuity of the show.
You're
And
100%
plus,
right.
That doesn't take into account the Kelvin timeline.
Right, but you're 100% right, except for you're 100% right. But if you look at Enterprise, they have been consistent with canon in regards to Star Trek Enterprise. So so all Star Trek in 2000 plus has been canonically consistent. So I mean, is that a coincidence? I know no one said it yet, but it's been canonically consistent since 2001.
Well, I don't think the issue is with the consistency with Enterprise. I think the issue is the consistency with the original series and the Next Generation.
Right.
So I mean, it basically comes down to this: the showrunners, the creators of these new Star Trek shows, have screwed the pooch when it comes to continuity because they haven't given us a definitive answer of what continuity they're following. And if they just came out and said, hey, this is a reboot like you guys want them to, that'd be one thing. Everyone would be like, okay, fine, cool. We'll get over it. But they haven't done that. And so I feel that to dismiss any criticism about going against canon or like these little continuity issues is disingenuous because those things are legit criticisms of the show based off of what the showrunners have told us so far.
And that's totally fair, and I totally agree with that. And I think, like I've said in previous weeks, as a wrestling fan whose brain is conditioned to suspend disbelief, I just enjoy the show for what it is, and I try not to think about that stuff. And then if it creeps into my head, I just, like you said, I headcanon that it's a reboot. But then when I talk to my friends, or fellow podcasters, and it's and they get heated, and I have to concede, like, look, some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. I get it, but is this the best Trek we've had in a couple decades, man? Come on.
It really is.
I agree with that. So I want to start talking about some of the issues I had with today's episode, and I want to get my expert panel's opinion on this stuff. And we're going to be going through a couple of these things, but the big thing that I wanted to touch on is that, they're following the Star Trek formula of focusing on a primary character for each episode. And this episode, we got Una, or number one's episode. This was really about her, and we get to learn her backstory. And we're talking a little bit about
Super chat.
Matt Vader
super chat
is
ever.
racist, winky face.
Whatever.
Because he mispronounces a Spanish
whatever Jose Pina. So
G.S.
there you go.
Pina. G.S.
So-
Pina.
Thank you for the $2.
So anyway, this was really number one's episode. There was a scene in here where she like ripped her shirt open. I was like, oh yeah, show me more of that.
Yeah.
But she was getting a little hot under the collar. But it was really interesting to learn about her because I didn't know anything about the character going into it. I just knew that she was like the female first officer for Pike. And in this episode, we got a lot of backstory about her being an Illyrian, who I guess is apparently a species that does genetic augmentations to try to adapt to different environments. And they're kind of frowned upon by the Federation. And there's been some scuttlebutt about how this was based off of a novel that was written by, what was her name, Vader?
DC Fontana.
DC Fontana. And she wasn't given proper credit and stuff like that. So I wanted to go around the panel and number one, get your thoughts on Una's backstory, but number two, also this kind of brewing controversy about DC Fontana not getting proper credit for fleshing out this character. So Vader, why don't we start with you?
Okay. So first off, I have not read the book. I'm not a big book reader, guys. I mean, that's not a big secret to anybody. I did, however, go to Amazon when this was breaking out on the news and stuff, and I was watching Salty Trekker's stream the other night on my lunch break. Him and Danny were there, and I just went on there and I found it on Amazon and got it for $2.60. So it's in the mail. It's coming, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't really have a whole huge opinion on it. But my understanding is that her backstory was set up in this novel by DC Fontana, and so they lifted that for this episode and made it, TV canon, I guess. And I think that's really kind of cool. And, you can't really blame them for doing that. I like it when these authors or these writers can go back into old established Trek and use things that are interesting and neat. And, and you would think that us old school fans would be able to appreciate that and like that, because I think that's how they should do this stuff. But the issue was that they didn't give her any credit.
Not even so much as a special thanks.
For the show, or a special thanks, or, just we love you, DC Fontana, in the end, dedicated to something with her name in the credits. I think that was kind of crappy, and they should have said something. They paid her. She's dead.
She's she died in 2019.
Okay. I understand that they probably own the rights to this stuff and they don't have to do this kind of thing. And, but at the same time, you can kind of be decent human beings about it. I'm kind of torn because I realize there's probably some legal aspects of stuff that they don't have to do. But as a fan, I think it would have been cool just to have a little dedicated or something in the something somewhere, just
totally
give her a little bit of credit. But that's what I have to say about it. I'm looking forward to reading the blurb out of the book that I'm probably never going to read otherwise, and it'll be on the shelf back there behind me, and it'll be cool. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
All right, Michael, Salty Trekker, what are your thoughts on this? What did you think of her backstory and the DC Fontana kerfluffle?
Well, on the backstory thing, I think it's cool. I do think that pulling stuff from novels is a fine place to pull source material, especially from some of the novels that are written by classic Trek authors like DC Fontana. Anybody that knows who Dorothy Fontana is, knows what an integral part of the foundation of Trek she is. And so, anything that she wrote is probably going to be a good source of material. But the as far as giving her credit, and I know that Robert Myron Burnett did a big old thing on his YouTube channel about it, and some people are like, oh, they stole her work and stuff. And and I know, Matthew, you've done work in the industry and stuff, and you know that putting a credit on an official Screen Actors Guild work is a little more complicated than just saying, hey, let's just put a thank you in there. because there are rules and regulations for what you can and cannot say thank you for. And so
What
could
about a
be
dedication? Are there
it
rules for
depends.
that?
There may be, and we don't know. No, so there could be, as far as the IP holder, there may be certain contractual obligations with the Roddenberry estate. There could be certain things that we don't know about that are involved there that we can't see behind the scenes. And so we don't know if there's something in the way of that. We do know that, since it is a licensed Trek work, that Paramount more than likely has the right to use that material. But we don't know that if they just blatantly use that, that if they just blatantly throw a thank you to this person or that person, whether or not that's okay. And so whether or not that would violate some backdoor contract. And so I'm not going to say that, they did anything wrong without having that kind of insider information. Is it, I think it would have been classy for them to say, thank you to DC Fontana who inspired us all, blah, blah, blah. That would have been great. But was there something that prevented them from doing that? I don't know.
All right, we got another super chat here
Super chat.
from good friend of the podcast, Mexican Iron Man, for $10. Guess who's back? Yep, your favorite, maybe only Salty Nerd Patreon Mexican Star Trek fan. So far, I think this Trek show sucks, but if anyone can change my mind, it's you guys. Help me, Spocks.
Help
Well,
me,
we're not-
Spock.
We're not here to change anyone's mind. We just want to talk about Star Trek like we normally do. Brian, what did you think of Una's backstory and the controversy surrounding the DC Fontana stuff?
Yeah, so super cool backstory. That's awesome. As far as like not attributing her in some way, we do two things. Mike, it's possible that Mike is right and there's more to it. And it's also possible that they haven't attributed her yet. It's the third season. I'm sorry, it's third episode. So there's still a chance to attribute her in some way. And if they don't, either they're trash people or there's some reason they can't. And we don't know what that reason is. I do know that there are legal reasons why you can, like, I know that for SAG rules, there's only a certain amount of people that can be screenwriters, certain amount of people that can be that can have attributed for directing and certain jobs. I don't know if that plays into it, but I know for a fact that there's certain jobs in the industry where you can only have one person or a team of people. So one person or two brothers or whatever, right? Which is one reason why the Matrix movie, the latest one, had nothing to do with the other brother, sister, whatever, was because when they changed their status, they fell off the SAG registry as a team. And so they couldn't have two directors, so one bowed out. So that happens a lot. So it's entirely possible that Mike is totally right and has something to do with that, or some writer wrote it and took credit for it. And I'm not saying that Paramount is the problem here. It can really just be a writer that just took credit for something he read in a book. It's not like that wouldn't be the first time it happened. And I'm not shilling for anyone. I'm just saying there's many options.
Danny, what did you think of Una's backstory and the DC Fontana kerfluffle?
So before I even get into the DC Fontana stuff, a little known factoid is that do you guys know the backstory that Majel Barrett created for herself when she played number one in the pilot of the original series? Does anybody know that story? No. So in her mind, she thought that number one was a clone and came from a race of clones, and that's why in that they didn't have names, they had numbers, and that's why she was called number one. And so she played her like that. And that was, obviously that's not how it turned out, but that's, so I always thought that was interesting. And I never knew anything about this book, although I do love, DC Fontana. I mean, somebody said earlier about, in the chat about, Roddenberry screwing her over. I mean, I'm pretty sure like she won a Hugo Award for Encounter at Farpoint. I mean, just because, she wrote it, and Gene Roddenberry did change some stuff, but it's not like she wasn't recognized for it. And she's responsible for.
Well, I believe they had to. They were arguing over whether it was going to be an hour or 2 hour long episode. Mm-hmm. So they won the 2 hour thing, and then Gene had to go in and add all the weird space station stuff. If I think that's what it was on the. There's a documentary out there all about it that I remember watching. But...
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's called Chaos on the Bridge is the documentary.
That's it. It's actually really good. It's fun.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
And DC Fontana is a big part of that episode.
Yeah, and she's been an integral part of Star Trek. I mean, some of the best episodes. Arguably. Charlie X, Journey to Babel, by any other name.
Danny, really quick. I just want to. I'm sorry. That could be right. I might be getting my signals crossed. It's been a little while since I've seen that show, but something went wonky where they had to cut some stuff or add some stuff. I don't know. We'll check it out later.
Yeah, no worries. But she also, I believe she was the showrunner for the animated series, or one of the showrunners. I know she did the Yesteryear episode, which is arguably the best episode in the animated series. And she did, quite I think, like 4 or 5 episodes of The Next Generation. And apparently, I've never been like one of those guys to deep dive into the books, of Star Trek. But apparently, she's done quite a bit of those too. That all said, back to Una. I think that if you're going to take a character, and that, like, I felt like she was a perfect character to kind of avoid. Like, I saw somebody in the chat say something about she got retconned. No, she didn't. We didn't know jack squat about her. You know what I mean? Like, like, to me, she's the perfect character for them to explore and give us a big backstory on, because there's nothing there. So like she's ripe for that.
You can't retcon a character that doesn't have a past.
Exactly.
Right.
You can fill it in. That's what they're doing. They're filling it in, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
so.
And I liked it a lot. I really liked the backstory, and I liked the fact that it added this layer. I especially love the end when she, like, I was saying last night it was a little cliche, but then I rewatched it and I was like, it fits. I do like how, she owned up to it. Tried to resign, and Pike was like, "No, we're not."
I need to address one more. I'm sorry. This comment. Yes, you are correct. No shit. That is what Star Trek does, Star Trek does. It's a social commentary show. That's it. It's always has been, and it probably, hopefully, always will be. So don't. When people throw that out there as a negative, I feel like it's a strange thing, because Star Trek has always used social commentary to tell their story.
Yeah,
right?
No, they've used space stories as allegory for our current social.
Social commentary is fine. It's when they take a hard position and preach to you. Right. That's the problem.
when they try to shove it down your throat.
They've always done that, but lately, before Strange New Worlds, the way they did it was different. So you can always have social commentary, but Strange New Worlds is doing it the way Star Trek has always done it, where they show both sides and they wrap it in a story, and there's an alien race involved, and it's not something where it's like where the starship is having mental problems and is questioning its gender or whatever.
I mean, I heard a lot of people call this the COVID episode. Anyway, Danny, wrap up your thoughts so we can move on to some other topics.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just, as far as the backstory for Una, I loved it. I did, even though I haven't read the book, I did do a little bit of deep diving after Vader brought to my attention the DC Fontana thing, and There are certain specifics that they didn't bring in that maybe that's why they didn't give her credit, DC Fontana credit, because like one of the reasons her name is Una is because her, is it Illyria? How do you pronounce it?
Illyria.
Illyrians.
Illyrian. The Illyrian name is unpronounceable, so she just shortened it to Una. That's in the book, apparently, so they didn't do that. But I'd be fascinated to see if they expand on it more, and then maybe, hopefully, because of all the fans, they do give her credit or a thanks or a dedication or something. So, yeah. So that's my take on it.
So just real quick to address the DC Fontana stuff, one thing that you guys have to recognize, not the panel, but the people watching, one thing that you got to recognize about how licensing structures in Hollywood work is that when you have novels, right? So what happens is a publishing house pays for the license for the franchise to write books for, right? So in this case, the publisher, I don't know the name of the publisher, but the publisher of these Star Trek novels paid Paramount to officially license the rights to Star Trek so they could write novels for it. So there's a delineation between the TV show and the books. The books are expanded universe. They're not necessarily canon, and they're not tied to the books or the TV show, I should say. So they're kind of their own thing from a legal perspective. So anything that she wrote, DC Fontana wrote in book form, is entirely separate from the TV shows. But because it's a licensed product, she doesn't own any of the intellectual material that she came up with. Everything that's come up with under the publishing license is owned by Paramount/CBS. And it's very much the same thing. It's like a work for hire thing. Basically, she got paid to write a novel. She came up with some great stuff in that novel, but she doesn't own any of it, right? Because she was compensated for her work, and it was a work for hire job, and it was under a licensed property, which ultimately ends up being owned by the parent company of Star Trek.
Right. That's exactly what I said last night. It's just like comic books. It's like the creator of Winter Soldier not getting, paid or credit or any of that for the Winter Soldier movie. So
yeah. And also the whole thing about giving her like a special credit or something like that. That's not something that's really done. Typically, you would give writers who contribute to a TV show on a regular basis some type of producer credit. As like if they were someone who was involved in the development of the show, like for instance Brian Fuller with Discovery. Brian Fuller still has a producer credit on Discovery because he was the guy who originated the series, even though he hasn't worked on it since the first 2 episodes of season 1. So that's typically how they do this thing. But because they pulled from DC Fontana's novel, which is a separately licensed property, they don't have to give her anything, and I don't even know what they would give her, because you don't typically credit other writers who contribute to a larger canon in a franchise for the stuff that they come up with, because it's just owned by the company, right? So I'm not quite sure how that would work exactly. So I think a lot of this outrage about her not getting credit is a little bit manufactured, because that's just not the way things are done in the business, at least in my experience. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, and I was if they mentioned, for example, they had Sam Kirk now in a couple of episodes. Does that mean that they need to credit the writer of Operation Annihilate, because that's where we got Sam Kirk?
Yeah, it'd be one of those things where every staff writer who came up with a new character would have to get credited for, every time they appear in a show or something like that. It becomes unwieldy way too quickly. I do think it would have been classy if the producers had come out and be like, hey, we're giving DC Fontana a shout out because we're using some of her stuff, but that's not something that needs to be officially credited in the show. Go ahead, Danny.
I just want to ask a question, since like I was asking Mike earlier, what about just under special thanks, or even dedicated to the memory of at the end? That's not controversial or anything, is it? Or against rules, is it? I mean,
no, it's not. But I mean, typically, again, she didn't come up with this for the TV show. There's a delineation there. Now, could they have? Probably, but maybe they wanted to save that for a more meaningful episode. I mean, I don't know.
We don't know what's coming later down the pipe, too.
Yeah, maybe they'll have a writers panel or something at the Star Trek convention, and maybe they'll shout her out there or something to just, I don't know, it'd be interesting. See what
I think
so-
what would be cool, I mean, for all we know, they're going to base something on one of her works later on and do a dedication then that's a little more meaningful than just a little piece of backstory.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the Illyrians and Una in particular. So it's revealed in this episode that she has a genetically altered immune system, which instantly burns out any kind of foreign agent that could infect her or harm her in any way, shape, or form. And it's kind of interesting because basically her body doesn't hold antibodies. Like as soon as like the virus is burned out, all the antibodies go away, and so like she seems like normal. Real quick question before I get into this, Michael, Brian, do either of you know, are Illyrians actually like just humans, but like they've just been genetically altered?
Well, Lyrians appeared in Enterprise.
Yeah, they were in Enterprise.
Yeah, they weren't human in Enterprise.
Yeah, that
So-
was the
so
episode
they're-
where
they're an
Archer
actual-
stole.
They're an actual alien race. Is this correct?
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean they're not like Klingons. Like they
They
look
look kind of like Klingons with different ridges.
right.
Kind of, but we got a really
Kinda.
awesome
Yeah, you got a big
super chat.
All right, Bob Dorsey for $40. Thank you, sir. That's very generous.
Very
Enjoy
nice.
listening, guys. Between the real BBC, EFAP, FNT, and now you guys, my days go by so much quicker. Keep up the good work. Do you have Streamlabs to bypass Mama Susan? We don't have Streamlabs yet. We kind of like to keep things simple, but we really appreciate the donation, especially such a generous one.
I'm going to
That's
show
very
my
nice.
ignorant. What does Mama Susan mean?
Susan,
That Susan Wachowski, the head of YouTube.
CEO of YouTube. Yeah,
Thank you. Okay, sorry.
So
my arch nemesis.
So the Illyrians actually look like humans, or were
No,
was
they
Una
look kind of-
They were
bioengineered?
humanoid. They had ridges on their forehead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
they
was
weren't
bi-
like super pronounced though.
But
so
you got to
Una was-
understand.
hold on. So
Sorry.
Una was biohacked to look like a human. Is that what we're
Well-
going with here?
Here's the thing is that Illyrians are all genetically engineered, so we don't really know what a quote unquote natural Illyrian would look like.
Right, that was my
Okay.
point. Like the ones we met in Enterprise, that could have been modifications.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
So-
totally. Yeah.
So because of the Eugenics Wars, Starfleet has kind of this hard stance of no genetic alterations in any case, in any scenario. And that's kind of like one of the things that keeps Una from being out as an Illyrian in Starfleet.
Right.
So here's my question, okay? So we have a situation in this episode where basically Una is immune to the light virus because her advanced genetically altered immune system just burned it out of her blood the minute that it kind of took hold. And so she's the only one who's not affected by it on the ship. And then we have a situation at the end of the episode where Dr. Mbatu, am I pronouncing that right?
Mbanga.
Mbanga, sorry.
I kept
Mbanga.
doing that too. That's from I think Black Panther. I was doing that.
Yeah.
Too. Zimbanga.
So Mbanga, his daughter has some type of incurable disease that he has to keep her in a transportation buffer in order to keep the disease from progressing, and that's what allowed the light virus to kind of bypass the biofilters and get on board the Enterprise. So here's my question: if we have a character whose immune system is so advanced that it can literally cure her of any disease, why can't they just use her to test out diseases, capture her data the minute that her body cures it, and create antidotes for pretty much everything that afflicts people in Starfleet?
Because that would be illegal.
That would be genetic
That,
modification.
yeah, that would yeah. But
Because Trek no babble.
Well, hold on.
hey, who
hold
says
on
they
though.
won't?
They're not doing genetic modification on Una. Like her immune system would be fighting these viruses. They would capture the data, just like they did with the light virus, and create a antidote for whatever disease her body cured. So where's
I
the
have an answer
genetic
for you.
modification there?
Yeah, actually, I
Or
do
go
not.
ahead.
I don't think her immune system is like this, like super immune system. I think that virus, their genetic one of their many genetic modifications was to deal with this virus that is native to their planet.
Right, which is why those what'd you call them, fire dragons? What'd you call
Oh
them,
yeah, the
Brian, the other
fire
day?
phoenix dragons.
That's why those. That's why some of the species of the Illyrians became those fire
Well,
dragons.
they did establish in this episode that her immune system is bioengineered to basically destroy any
Yeah,
disease that
she can
comes in
resist pretty
contact
much
with it.
any disease.
Well, then,
Well, hold on, Danny. Let me
Sorry.
just finish my thoughts here. So, in episode 1 of Strange New Worlds, we have Nurse Chapel, who is a geneticist, and her job on the Enterprise is to create genome sequences that temporarily alter people's entire genetic structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently that's illegal, but it's okay if it's temporary, right? So it wears off over time. So let me ask you this: why can't they genetically engineer that augment that Una has to basically wipe your body of any foreign agent, any disease, whatever, and just do what Nurse Chapel does, make it a temporary thing. So you inject them, your body gets the DNA rewritten to basically get rid of any disease, and then in a couple hours you go back to normal, and boom, like you've just solved every single medical issue in Star Trek.
Well, I'm
Let
pretty
me-
sure that would
let
take a
me-
long time.
Let me interject here really quick. I'm gonna comment. First off, Set like 3 Gaming for $5. Thank you. Live long and prosper to you, sir.
LLP.
And also, I think you're 100% correct on this nitpick, Matthew. I absolutely agree. It's very strange. It seems like a weird kind of glitch in their process. I completely understand where you're coming from there. It does seem strange.
And I agree too. However, so what I was going to say earlier is, one, we don't know that they won't actually, even though it's episodic, they might pull on this thread later, and Mbenga might go to her and be like, "Hey, can we try this? We don't know yet," which would be cool.
Yeah,
One.
they just found out she was a Lyrian.
Yeah,
They just found out about this.
Yeah, two, they establish in the episode, both Chapel and Mbenga are like, regulations be damned. First and foremost, we're doctors and we're here to save lives, even if we have to, break rules to do it.
Such a Bones response too.
Yeah, you know what I mean. They were they were both like, we're down.
Well, I know that canon-wise, the reason that the genetic augmentations have been outlawed by Starfleet is because when it comes to the Eugenics Wars, one of the side effects of the genetic manipulations was that basically people's ambitions got heightened as well, and that created tyrants and wars and all types of stuff.
Everyone
aggression was heightened. Yeah,
everyone turns into Doomcock when they get augmented.
That's funny.
Hey, don't be bashing the cock, okay? One of the things about this episode to me was just that if you have obviously, like, they didn't know she was Illyrian, so like they had no like they even said in the show, like, we don't know how your metabolism works or anything like that. But now that they do, like, wouldn't Starfleet kind of like be of the mindsets like, well, the benefit for like temporary genome therapy for like these terrible diseases outweighs the idea, because like you're not permanently genetically altering people, you're just doing it temporarily like Nurse Chapel does, right? So why can't we do that?
I mean, it takes time.
Michael's been sitting here patiently with his arm up for the last 5 minutes.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, this points to a larger problem in Trek, and this is not just a Kurtzman era Trek issue, because every time they have a disease-based problem in Trek, whether it's in For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, and McCoy is dying of some weird disease, or now Dr. Mbenga's daughter and her 12-week diagnosis from some weird cancer, or whatever it is. And then we look at our favorite line from Troy from First Contact about how, thanks to Zephyrin Cochrane how disease is wiped out within a generation of first contact, right? Well, if disease is wiped out, why is it that Dr. Mbenga's daughter is going to die of cancer? Right?
And maybe it was hyperbole on her part.
If disease is wiped out, why is it that Dr. McCoy is going to die of this disease in the world is hollow for I've touched the sky?
Or even in Star Trek V, McCoy's dad. You know?
Right, exactly.
Picard's suffering from a disease. That's
Yeah,
why he's a robot now.
Picard with his neurological condition and all these different diseases that keep cropping up in Star Trek. The only thing that doctors should be dealing with for the most part in the future is quick treatments for occasional diseases that pop up, but they should be instant cures and injuries.
I do need to point out, Michael. So originally, because of the actor who plays Mbenga's, voice and dialect, I originally thought that he said that his daughter had some type of rare leukemia.
That's what it sounded like, right?
But when you're watching the subtitles, it's called Cygnokemia.
Oh, I really thought he said leukemia of some kind. Yeah.
Well, whatever, space cancer.
He didn't say. Well, we don't know if it's cancer or not. Is the thing. So, I think by this point they had cured cancer. So this is something that affects the blood cells in a way that leukemia might, but it's not cancer, and they don't know how to cure it.
Okay.
Like they were very kind of like fast and loose with like what this disease is. Like we don't know. Like I did some Googling. I couldn't find anything about it prior to this episode.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like they keep acting like, oh yeah, disease is pretty much a thing of the past, except for when it is.
Well,
and
here's something that does trouble me a little bit, and they did this in Picard too, in the first season with synthetic life forms. Is I thought only Siths dealt in absolutes. I think it's really weird that the Starfleet takes such a hard line. And to Kadish's point earlier, where he was talking about why doesn't Starfleet do this, Starfleet doesn't know yet. I don't think Pike has. He said, "Let me." At the very last scene of this episode, he said, "Let me deal with Starfleet."
I would like to point out that I did in the chat, brought it up a little while ago. Dr. Bashir is
he's an augment.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was something. I don't remember if that was something that he kept secret, or I think it was, but I don't know.
He did keep it secret, and then when it came out, his father took the fall for him because Bashir had no choice in the matter because it was when he was a baby.
It's been a long time since I've seen that episode.
Yeah, so they let Bashir off the hook, but his dad, I believe, had to go to jail for it or whatever.
Let me ask you guys this, right? So, the transporters have biofilters attached to them, right? And they're designed to specifically filter out anything they don't recognize based off of the person's initial, biosignature. So every time someone gets sick, why can't they just teleport them somewhere and have the biofilters just cure them?
Well, I think it has to be. They have to be programmed to be able to detect whatever it is that.
Well, Hemmer specifically said in this episode that they just filter out anything they don't recognize. So that covers pretty much every disease known to man.
Yeah, but
cancer cells actually, the way cancer works, it attacks your cells and it becomes your cells. So
we're not talking about cancer. We're talking about diseases.
I'm trying to apply logic and reason to a show that doesn't, that don't have it.
Didn't it have something to do with the they got an upgrade, but they didn't get an upgrade that would have.
The problem,
only in the medical bay.
The problem was that the doctor sabotaged the upgrade by not allowing them to upgrade the medical.
He didn't sabotage it.
Not intentionally, but
here is the explanation that the show gave, right? So because Mbenga did not allow the emergency medical teleporter to be upgraded, and because that teleporter and the main teleporter were on the same system.
Stop calling it a teleporter; it's a transporter.
I know, bro.
Apologies. Because they were on the same power system, they shared the same filters, and the non-upgraded filters allowed the light virus to pass through somehow. It was kind of a weak explanation, but whatever. So another thing I wanted to ask you guys is if it's known at this point in time that you can keep someone in suspended animation through a teleporter or teleportation buffer, transporter buffer constantly or indefinitely, I should say, why is it that Starfleet doesn't have this for all like kind of like people who are suffering from a terminal illness that they haven't discovered a cure for yet?
So it's not indefinitely. He said he actually there is a line of dialogue where he says, he has to materialize her, and that's why it seems like roughly every 24 hours he brings her out, reads her a bedtime story, and puts her back in.
But I mean, this is how Scotty was able to survive for like
Scotty
hundreds of years.
Not
I
exactly.
I wish what was your buddy's name? Michael John DeMarco, is that his name? He was tripping over this last night. He was like, Scotty was an engineering genius, and he cobbled something together, and it only half worked because his friend died. You know what I mean? Like he tried to do it for both of them.
Yeah.
And that was 75 years.
Yeah, Mbenga's using the transporter the way it was intended to work. He's beaming it in the pattern, then he takes it out every however much time before the pattern degrades. Scotty was a magician, a legend. This guy made magic out of machines, and he was able
a miracle worker.
Yeah, he was able to trick the system into running diagnostics for 75 years.
But all that aside, like if this is something that is known that you can do with teleporters, why doesn't Starfleet offer this as a legit medical way to preserve people who have fast-acting illnesses in order to preserve them long enough to hopefully find a cure? Like you would think that this would be something that Starfleet Medical would offer as a service.
Next-gen cryogenic freezing.
So Mbenga doesn't have to like compromise the ship's systems to save his daughter.
So John DeMarco brought this up last night too. There's also like a one-word question, stasis. Like, isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to tear the show down because I love the show, but there are things, you know what I mean?
Her,
like they're
put her in a cryopod, right?
Yeah, something,
because that's
maybe he acted quickly and rashly, and he wanted to be able to talk to her. So
I mean that's probably more selfish motivation.
I mean, let me speak real quick. So it does kind of seem in this case that, and people are gonna like either scream at me or clap. It feels like the writers of this show and the showrunners didn't really do their research for this particular storyline, because we just fixed it in 30 seconds as being doing what we do, and I feel like it's a little bit lazy on their part.
Well, I want to point out that in the show, Mbenga specifically says that you can hold that buffer indefinitely. He specifically says it.
As long as you materialize them he says that, but with a caveat. And we talked about that because I brought up the tax code. Regularly lacks specificity, but so I want to know where people like your buddy Professor Brainy Specs and even John DeMarco, they were hung up on this 5-minute thing. Where did that come from? Am I missing
that comes
something?
from the TNG era, because in the TNG
there was
era,
a chat here.
They made it a much shorter period of time.
There was a DS9 episode that had something to do with that too.
Yeah. Well, that's TNG era.
So
this is why they need people like Michael Okuda, right, on set at all times.
But that's why I argued that the TNG era transporters were a different system, though, than the TOS transporters.
So guys, moving on, there's a part in this episode, it's kind of like the climax of the virus arc, where basically Una is fighting La'an in the engineering bay. La'an's trying to basically create a warp core breach so that she can get access to the light or something like that.
Yeah.
And we cut away as soon as we see the warp core shield failing, and Una gets her her sunshine skin thing going on. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to the medical bay, and it's explained that when the warp core breach happened and Una got hit with radiation, her body was able to basically absorb that and get rid of all the negative effects of the radiation overdose, which probably would have come in handy with Spock and Star Trek 2. But anyway, so she gets rid of all the radiation overexposure, and La'an, because she's close by when her body goes through this healing process, somehow that healing power is transferred to La'an, which protects her from the radiation.
Which visual you can see, by the way.
Okay, but that's not my point, though. I'm going to get to my point in a second. So La'an somehow absorbs number one's healing power And because she's not Illyrian, she retains the antibodies that healed her, which then Nurse Chapel is able to create a what do you call it? A vaccine to save the rest of the crew that's infected by this light virus.
An antidote or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna pay that off. They're gonna pay that off, dude. Yeah.
So how did number one's genetically enhanced healing ability transfer into La'an?
Let me
Power
answer.
of sisterly love.
No, it's not. Let me answer.
Yeah, Brian.
Let me answer,
Brian's
'cause
got this.
I can put this to bed real quick. In episode 5, you'll get a payoff for that, and I don't want to spoil it on the stream.
So they're doing some setup here. Is that what you're saying?
There's some setup here.
For
Yeah.
some payoff later down the road?
Yeah, if you watch that video, Danny, this is the one thing we didn't talk about because it was too big of a spoiler.
Here's the thing, though. All spoilers aside, if you're going to have that type of leap in logic, you need to set it up. The idea that someone who's genetically engineered to have like a certain healing factor can somehow just transfer it into someone
Hint,
who's close by.
Her last name is Soon.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, regardless, I would have liked a little bit better explanation than
Also,
she just happened to transfer into it.
Look at their fight scene. I think Leon.
I think this is the setup though, because it happened quickly. It wasn't planned.
So Brian, what do you think? I think Leon is somehow through what's the word I'm looking for? Not genetics, but
just being a descendant.
Just being a descendant. I think she does have some of the. I mean, look at that, man. Like that fight scene with Una. Obviously,
I think it's clear.
Una's a bad bitch, man.
You're killing me, bro. Yeah.
What?
It's obvious. So we saw Una, throw hammer over her shoulder and
like nothing.
So
and that was a very bad dummy that she had over her shoulder, by the way.
It was.
But
even
so,
Una's clearly stronger than a typical human.
The point they're trying to make is that she is very strong. Well, she fought the very, very super strong lady, fought with Leon, and it was a good fight. It was a good fight. It wasn't like she just quickly beat the crap out of Leon. No. So what does that tell you, man?
Yeah.
It
seems like Una could have held her own against Spock.
Huh?
Yeah.
It seems like Una might have been able to hold her own against Spock.
Yeah, she could probably whoop Spock's ass. Really.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say she could hold her own against him. And yet, when the two of them fought, it was not just a quick, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It was, it was actually a fight.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Don't worry.
So it's clear that La'an inherited some of great-great-grandpappy's abilities.
Yeah.
Well, there is a scene towards the end of the episode where La'an basically says that kids used to call her Augment as a way to kind of make fun of her when she was a kid.
Right.
So
I think that's a little self-loathing there.
But there is set up so maybe she is augmented to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that.
Her last name is Soon. Her great grandfather is the most famous, most powerful augment.
Well, that's one of the things I want to talk about real quick. Is there's a scene in here. Yeah, there's a scene in here where basically number one and La'an are talking, and they point out Khan basically, and so Khan. In the Eugenics Wars, he kind of conquered about a third of the planet Earth, and was one of the longest running kind of genetically enhanced dictators on there. So what I wanted to ask
Asia, though, right?
Yeah, back during the Clinton administration.
Yeah, but
you remember that?
Makes sense. That tracks.
But we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit, Michael. But one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is. So wouldn't Khan have been better known in the Star Trek universe? Because I remember Space Seed, it was like Kirk didn't know who the hell he was, right? So wouldn't someone who basically took over a third of the planet kind of and mysteriously disappeared kind of pass the legend?
Yeah, bro, this is that thing that Picard said. Around this time, the history was tragically unrecorded or whatever he said, remember?
Well, yeah, but they also in Space Seed, they do pull up. They don't know who he is at first, which again, with the whole Spock thing being there are holes with continuity, which is why I wish they would just say this is a reboot. But in Space Seed, Kirk does do a little research and pull the file up and confronts Khan about, hey, you are actually this tyrant. You know what I mean? So it's not. He just didn't know it off the top of his head. Because Kirk is more of a. He was more. He was more bothered by getting pussy than getting A's on his tests.
Yeah.
You know
He
what I mean?
said, "Hey, you were this bad guy," and Khan goes, "That's right." Yes,
I want to ask Michael and Brian this question. So, common knowledge is that the eugenics wars happened in the 1990s, but there's a theory out there to say that the actual eugenics wars happened in 2090, and Spock, when he said the 90s, was actually referring to 2090 instead of 1990. Do you guys know anything about that?
So, according to Memory Alpha, the eugenics wars took place on Earth between 1992 and 1996.
Right.
Yes.
And
So-
Khan himself in Star Trek 2 said the Botany Bay launched in 1996.
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah, I just
This-
want to.
But guys, but guys, yeah, this is not the regular world. Like this is like Star Trek world.
Yeah.
I think that they planned for, in the 50s, they planned for it to be like, when they wrote the show, oh, that's so far in the future, and Star Trek's not going to last more than 10 years, so we can attribute this to happening in the future. They didn't realize that it would be an 80+ year franchise, and they would have to answer the fact that
I get it. I
Well,
totally
yeah,
get it.
it's not our timeline, but I do want to say, because Kadish acts like I'm some kind of schlub. Michael, I would like you to inform them, like, did I or did I not get the highest score you've ever had on the Daily
you
Double?
did not actually, Thomas.
Oh, I didn't.
No,
Oh.
Thomas checked. You have the third highest score.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
All right. Well,
Life
I'll be back.
goals. Life
I'll be
goals.
Yeah,
The highest score belongs to Gorilla. He had 5,900 points. You had
Okay.
4,900.
Okay, but I got the highest daily double ever, right?
okay, I
You
need to
did
play
have the
this Star
highest
Trek
daily
Jeopardy.
double.
I need
Okay,
to
all right.
take you guys to school at Star Trek Jeopardy. I
know.
All right, guys, real quick to get back on track here. So basically, it's established that the eugenics wars happened in the 90s, right? 1990,
92 to 96.
But this is
92 to
another-
96.
In Star
Hold
Trek
on, Danny.
land.
Okay.
All right, so this is part of the Star Trek timeline. So when Star Trek Picard went back to 2021, the eugenics wars supposedly already happened, but
Yes.
World War III hasn't happened. But in the original Star Trek canon, didn't World War III happen and then the eugenics wars?
No,
Well,
it was,
yeah. So
it was eugenics wars that turned into World War III.
Well, no, it didn't turn into it. No. So yes, that happened in the 90s, and then 30 years later, almost, the World War III came up. This guy brought up a good point. Michael Strasmore. Mark my words, eugenic wars is plural for a reason. That is a good point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And if there's multiple eugenic wars, then it would explain a lot of what they're doing in Star Trek right now and focusing on the augments. That would make a lot of sense. And if I was fighting a world war, I would pull my augments out of cold storage, guys.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
But-
my thing to further, with the whole reboot thing is in the last episode when Pike is, giving that speech, or in the first episode when Pike's giving that speech to those to the world leaders, he says, either he's bad at history or they're rewriting history or this is a reboot. He says that the eugenics wars, like he lumped it all together. Remember that, Brian? Where
I think I have to assume that he said it out of order because you're right. He said, yeah, then when there was World War III, the eugenic wars. He was saying it as if he was following a timeline, and it didn't add up. And I've always said it would make way more sense if the eugenic wars took place after or during World War III. It would make a lot more sense to the timeline, but I don't know. Maybe they're rewriting it.
But guys, and Danny, can you please tell someone to stop opening that squeaky door of yours?
Yeah, sorry.
Let me
real-
interject something real quick. Is that what if, because we know, thanks to the existence of La'an, we do know that Khan had descendants that did not leave with him on the Botany Bay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But real quick, guys, real quick. So in 1996, the eugenic wars ended. That means that when Picard went back in time, in season 2 of Star Trek Picard. The Eugenics Wars, where Khan had conquered a third of the planet, had already happened, and recorded history was still a thing at that point in time. So why did we lose all these records? Why did we forget about this?
I'm starting to think, and especially with the whole Adam picking up the folder and it says like the Khan project or whatever. I'm starting to think that that evidence plus what Pike said in Strange New Worlds, I think that they might be retconning the whole 1996 thing. I think they might be putting it after World War III, and I think they need to do that because they want to use augments in the future. You think about this. Mike, you know this. There's 3 big bads in Star Trek that always plague every series, right? One of them is augments, right? Borg. We've already overused the Borg like crazy. What bad guy have we not used in a really long time? Augments. If I was writing brand new Star Trek, I would want to lean on a really popular villain that I haven't used since 2002, right? I think
which goes back to your Enterprise point, my friend.
Right. So you're right. It goes back to the Enterprise points. I think that they are setting us up for augment stuff in future series, maybe even season 3 of Picard. Who knows? Because they killed Q. They overused the Borg now. They've used the Borg so much that people don't care anymore. What's the next thing? It's got to be the augments. The augments has got to be the next big thing. I think next big recycling thing.
I think the question that I have is I have to ask myself, do I really care if they fiddle with the timeline from a show that they made 50 years ago?
No.
But my answer is, of course, no, it's not. We watch a lot of movies for the podcast, especially this last month, that are science fiction movies set in 1997 and 2002 and just stuff that when I was 15 I go, whoa, that the future is going to be really cool. You know what I mean? And nowadays it's like, man, I'm 52 years old. I've passed all that shit. Yeah. And all of us have. So new shows that are coming out, just to say that they have to be hardline stuck with this stuff that had no intention of ever being even made now, like we said earlier, it's kind of hard to do. And it would probably be a really frustrating thing in the writers and producers rooms of these shows to be able to have to stick to this hardcore timeline that has been set forth. Should they stick to it as much as they could? Absolutely, I think they can. But when it comes to
I don't think they care. I don't think they get frustrated.
I think they have to. They might have to make some changes to go forward. Yeah. Though. It doesn't make sense that Eugenics Wars happened in '96.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the reasons why you shouldn't do prequels. You should just move forward with continuity.
100%.
Real quick, guys. I want to give a shout out to a YouTuber named Major Grin who does a lot of really great stuff with Star Trek. I want to play for you guys a video that he made about the Eugenics Wars that I think is worth watching. It's about a 6-minute video. We might not watch the whole thing, but I want to watch at least the first half of it and get your guys' reactions, and then we're going to dive into Brian's video about the Eugenics Wars and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. So, thank you.
Yes, so we will talk about all that stuff right now.
Of your first 3 world wars, Doctor. They have slavery, gladiatorial games, despotism. Situations quite familiar to the 6 million who died in your First World War, the 11 million who died in your second, the 37 million who died in your third. Shall I go on?
We have arrived approximately 10 years after the Third World War.
Most of the major cities have been destroyed, very few governments left. 600 million dead.
World War III on Earth. A nuclear cataclysm that left 600 million dead and governments destroyed.
And yet in Earth's Third World War, nuclear weapons accounted for 600 million casualties.
Mid-21st century. The post-atomic horror.
This is a quote of the year 2079, by which time more rapid progress had caused all United Earth nonsense to be abolished.
The last such vessel was built centuries ago, back in the 1990s. The mid-1990s was the era of your last so-called World War. The Eugenics Wars.
Khan Noonien Singh.
From 1992 through 1996, absolute ruler of more than a quarter of your world, from Asia through the Middle East. The last of the tyrants to be overthrown. Your Earth was on the verge of a dark ages. Whole populations were being bombed out of existence. A group of criminals could have been dealt with far more efficiently than wasting one of their most advanced spaceships.
Would you estimate him to be a product of selective breeding?
In 1993, a group of these young supermen did seize power simultaneously in over 40 nations. 37 million who died in your third. Shall I go on?
You tried to redesign your species. First time that was attempted on Earth, the result was 30 million deaths. This is extremely sophisticated work for 20th century Earth.
200 years ago, we tried to improve the species through DNA resequencing. And what did we get for our trouble? The Eugenics Wars. For every Julian Bashir that can be created, there's a Khan Singh waiting in the wings. A superhuman whose ambition and thirst for power have been enhanced along with his intellect.
They were aggressive, arrogant. They began to battle among themselves.
Because the scientists overlooked one fact. Superior ability breeds superior ambition.
Genetic recoding can't give you ambition or a personality.
A superhuman whose ambition and thirst for power have been enhanced along with his intellect. The law against genetic engineering provides a firewall against such men.
By my estimate, there were some 80 or 90 of these young supermen unaccounted for when they were finally defeated.
That fact isn't in the history texts.
Would you reveal to war-weary populations that some 80 Napoleons might still be alive?
DNA resequencing for any reason other than repairing serious birth defects is illegal. Any genetically enhanced human being is barred from serving in Starfleet, practicing medicine.
Was the Darwin Genetic Research Station on Gagarin 4.
We're en route to the Federation Research Station on Gagarin 4.
But my immediate concern is our children.
Children?
They represent years of advanced genetic research.
The child is unquestionably telepathic. A child this mature. We could be looking at the future of humanity. This child is in better health than we are. His immune system is so advanced it may not be possible for him to contract disease. He's telepathic.
They were designed to resist disease. Our ultimate achievement. The oldest is 12, and all are telekinetic. Watch.
Genetically engineered?
Not engineered, created. Perfect in every way. Their body structure, their musculature, their minds.
You were telling me about their immune system.
That was our masterpiece. We gave these children an aggressive immunity.
The adults of Darwin Station have been restored to normal health using our transporter. They will remain on Gagarin 4 and continue their research in hopes of one day rejoining their children.
DNA resequencing for any reason other than repairing serious birth defects is illegal. Any genetically enhanced human being is barred from serving in Starfleet, practicing medicine.
I don't think there's been a case dealing with any of this in 100 years. You can't be sure how they'll react.
It would destroy everything we have worked for 2 centuries to accomplish.
You see, this is an engineered society.
Engineered?
Genetically engineered. Our ancestors came from Earth to create a perfect society. They believed that through controlled procreation, they could create people without flaws. And those people would build a paradise.
All of you have been selectively bred? Your DNA patterns chosen?
8 generations of us.
We have immeasurably extended the potential of humanity. Physically, psychologically, we have evolved beyond us.
I was born to be one of the best scientific minds of my generation. And in the past 5 days, I have encountered technology that I have barely imagined. And I've got to ask myself, if we're so brilliant, how come we didn't invent any of these things? All of us on this colony have been living in the Dark Ages. It's like we're victims of a 200-year-old joke. Suddenly, our eyes have been opened to the infinite possibilities.
Is barred from serving in Starfleet, practicing medicine.
She wants to leave the colony.
I don't think there's been a case dealing with any of this in 100 years.
Maybe O'Brien just doesn't remember. Or it might be a good idea to run a diagnostic on him.
What is he, a machine?
He's Miles and Miles O'Brien. So what did you guys think of that little breakdown of the inconsistencies?
Amazing. I loved it. I love it. I'm sorry, I'm echoing right now. It's
yeah.
You're echoing, Brian.
You're echoing too.
Echo. Yeah, it's echoing.
Everyone's echoing.
Ooh.
Do you have audio monitor on?
Hold on a sec. How's that?
That's better.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah. Listen, I love that because it showed that even our favorite Star Trek shows made countless mistakes when it comes.
They sucked at math,
Wars
dude. They sucked at math.
And augments. Like at one point, they're like, this world, our next world war was in the 90s. Then the Eugenics
30
Wars.
million.
That was like no wonder
600 million, 30 million.
No wonder why Strange New Worlds are getting it right, dude. No one got it right, apparently.
Nobody.
Everyone is confused on this topic. Holy crap. It depends on what show you like the best.
That was like a point I brought up last night. Like, I wonder, like, if TNG came out in this day and age with social media and everything, if people would be, bitching and complaining, like they are now about Strange New Worlds.
That first season was pretty bad.
Well, and that's one of the things that I was arguing about last night too. Is that I understand. Look, I get it that the continuity errors are annoying, but I'm not going to say a show is bad just because of continuity errors. A continuity error can be an annoyance for a good show, or it can take a bad show and make it worse. But it's not going to make or break a show.
Yeah.
Super chat.
Michael Strathmore for $2. I blame time traveling Wesley Crusher for all this.
I think we can all agree on that.
That son of a bitch.
This is a perfect example.
Fuck you, Will Wheaton.
I mean, look, there was all kinds of continuity errors and problems in Picard, and we bitched about it, and we criticized all the other stuff. And then on this show, we're like, okay, yeah, there's some continuity errors, but we also love the show. This is a perfect example of like, if you make a really good show, if the writing is good and the characters are admirable, and it fits the standard operating procedure of Star Trek, you can get away with a lot with people.
I don't think the writers' room on the Picard show gave two shits about anything in the Star Trek universe.
I
think they just did whatever the hell they wanted to do. It took it was terrible.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if they even Googled the correct spelling of Guinan at one point.
For sure.
Oh God.
So
that's
Brian,
what we're dealing with.
So Brian, you said that your recent video talks about the Eugenics Wars. Why don't you give us a breakdown of what it's about and educate us a little bit on what is the Eugenics Wars, what happened, who were the players in it, and how did it impact Star Trek?
Ooh, can we get a tasty clip?
Yeah, hold up. Actually, our Eugenics Wars video is not coming out for a while. This video is about Khan specifically and how they're going to make another Khan show, and we sort of explain the whole, like what I said earlier, the whole big bad thing, and how it's sort of priming itself for a Khan series, or at the very least, the augments and the Khan lineage being introduced back into the shows as antagonists. So either that's going to happen, or there's going to be an actual Khan show. And there was a moment where there was a writer, a very famous Trek writer that was, I forgot his name, that was it's in the video, that was actually tasked to write a Khan miniseries. And then he was, told
Nicholas Meyer was on the project.
Meyer, thank you, yeah. And then he was told, I guess Kurtzman said, "Oh, we put that on the shelf. We're not doing it right now." But that's not entirely accurate, because he said that several months after the fact, he was still writing it. So either he let that slip that he was still writing it several months after the fact that they said that they shelved it, or maybe they shelved it temporarily and brought it back. Who knows? But I do believe that that secret project that Kurtzman is working on, the one where he says he's mentioned it 2 or 3 times now, where it's it's a new Star Trek thing, but we hush. I don't think that's Starfleet Academy that was already announced. I don't think that's Section 31 that was already announced. And obviously it wasn't the cartoons. They're already announced, already out. It has to be the only other project that they talked about doing and then shelved that they're secretly working on, because he keeps saying that they're working on a project, but it's hush hush and they can't say very much right now. So it's got to be the Khan miniseries, especially considering Myers is still employed. So that's my thought. And the video explains it in much better detail because I am not as well spoken as my brother is.
Are we talking about the same Nicholas Myers that directed Wrath of Khan?
Yes.
In Star Trek 6, yeah.
Then it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
That he's writing a Khan miniseries.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get
Or
passionate about this because I was actually arguing with someone who was helping me with the video last night. He said, "Well, I mean, but why would they do that?" I'm like, because it doesn't. They want nostalgia. Of course, they're gonna reapproach Khan. He was the most famous villain in Star Trek history. His everyone knows that name. So if they're getting the writer of Wrath of Khan to work on a Khan miniseries, he's still employed by the network, and Alex Kurtzman is constantly dropping these bombs. Oh, working on a new project. Either he's completely lying, they're not working on nothing, he's just trying to keep the hype going, or it's happening. Oh, they're making a Khan series. I'm not saying I even like it because I don't really want to see a Star Trek show where they stay on a planet. But
yeah, that doesn't sound like something I want to watch, to be honest with you.
But I wouldn't mind seeing I wouldn't mind seeing a Khan show. It would be hard to say it's Star Trek to me.
If it's a Khan show, let me ask you this: what would you rather see? Would you rather see Khan taking over, Asia and the Middle East, on Earth, or would you rather see like him in space right before they go into cryo freeze or whatever?
I don't want to see any of that stuff.
I know. I'm asking.
That stuff's all in my head.
No, I feel you.
I want to see them. I want to see them actually pay off this whole thing where like multiple series have gotten it wrong as to when the Eugenics Wars and World War III was, and just like solidify that there was a second eugenic war, because I always say wars, and it happened after World War III, and it somehow involved augments, because I would probably want to watch that.
So, but Brian, these things that you've researched and maybe
there's a video, guys.
Okay, I'll watch your video. Never mind.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was putting in the chat. My bad.
Oh no, it's okay. What do you think? What time period do you think, if this happens, the Khan series or whatever miniseries or movie would take place?
Well, Shane theorized via like just basic knowledge of the industry when Picard ends. So they made a point in one of the ready rooms to say that the Paramount always wants to have at least two active Star Trek shows in development. So if you think about that, Picard is going to end after season 3, which means that we're going to have, from what we have right now, we'll have Strange New Worlds and probably Disco, except for we won't have Strange New Worlds. In fact, we'll have Strange New Worlds won't be happening until a year later. So there is a period of time where there won't be two shows. So if they say they always want two shows in development, there's at least an 8 to 10 month period where there won't be two shows in development. So that must be the second show.
So guys, I want to pop in here real quick. I got two things I want to cover with you before we move on to our final topic. The first is that, so it's obvious that between Picard and Strange New Worlds and all this stuff, the Star Trek writers are setting up a Khan story arc. Now, Brian did a great breakdown of how Nicholas Myers was tapped to do a Khan miniseries, but I think, and this is my theory, okay, I'm probably not right, but I'm going to go on record as this being my theory. I don't think Kurtzman is going to go ahead with Nicholas Myers as the guy to write the Khan series. I think what they set up in Star Trek Picard is that the Khan that Kirk defeated was a clone. The real Khan never left the planet Earth, and the Khan project is about cloning, making clones of Khan. And so we're going to see a return of Khan in the Star Trek universe in the Next Generation era. And that, I think, is what they're leading this up to. Now,
Matt, you know why I love that? Because that would also explain the theory that Soon is a clone. Why he pulled that folder out because his other clone didn't work out. I think he's going to try to reapproach that.
Well, I think what Soon's work was with Not Soji was that he was trying to create clones of Khan without the ambition side effect. And because he was messing with it, it kept failing. And so now that all of his research is gone, he's going to go back to the original material, and he's going to have other clones of Khan, and one of them is going to get out, and that's going to create a whole new arc for, whatever Star Trek thing they decide to do.
Someone in the chat said, let me know if this is correct, that the folder with the Khan project was in the Confederate timeline. Is that correct or not? I mean,
No, that was in the past.
That was
it was
okay,
before the branch had happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
But they also fixed the timeline.
Right. Yeah. So I really like that, and like I said, you're right. It's for me, it was like, it's either they're introducing this new big bad to the this old big bad to the Star Trek ecosystem, or it's another show.
You guys are forgetting the big twist to the series, though.
Hold up, wait. I know you're gonna say something about Mexicans. Let me finish this point.
No, it's not about Mexicans.
It's entirely possible that they do both things. It's entirely possible that Picard season 3 deals with augments, and that sets up that explains to newer audiences what augments are.
No, this is about the new series. I think the Khan series, but it's not going to be called the Khan series. See, so what Soon is doing in the past. So when he got Project,
he's repopulating Mexicans. Is that what's happening?
No, it has nothing to do with Mexicans.
Okay.
You guys are obsessed with Mexicans. I don't know what your deal with Mexicans is.
You did this so many times.
Anyway,
that was you, bro.
Now, he's going to
let him finish.
He's going to use the Khan DNA, like you were saying, and it's going to be starring the same actress that's been playing Natsoji, and that's going to be the Khan clone, and the series is going to be called Connie.
You son of a bitch!
Well, I do think
I was buying it, bro.
I do think that the secret show that they're talking about is going to be a Khan miniseries. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to bring in people from Voyager, Next Generation, and DS9, and have it be like a big event miniseries where like they have to band together to fight off Khan.
Oh God, give me some Dr. Bashir. I miss Dr. Bashir. That'd be great.
Yeah, so like that's my theory. That's what I'm going on record as doing it. But
Dude,
before
that'd be
we
awesome.
R2
Super chat.
R2 the Icky for $1.99. Never doubt Katie. She's a goddamn blue check. Damn it. That's right. I am. Never forget it.
When are you going to get that hat with the little hovering blue check mark we've been talking about?
Soon. It's in the
How
works.
do you feel about the fact that pretty soon everyone's gonna have blue check marks?
I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about Starfleet's absolution with genetic augmentation. So basically, they have this hardline stance that anyone who's genetically enhanced can't work in Starfleet. And yet we have Nurse Chapel, who is basically a geneticist, and her whole job on the Enterprise is genetic augmentation. She basically alters people's genomes, which is the entirety of their DNA makeup, in order to have them basically integrate with the alien species that they're, visiting the planet of. And there's a contradiction here where basically, like, okay, how can it be okay to make genetic alterations temporarily, but not permanently for the betterment of the species? So I wanted to just ask you guys about that. What do you think about this whole Starfleet is against genetic augmentation thing? Vader?
What do I think about it? I think it was a fun story construct that they used. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what really to think about it. I think that's something that they can use to plot storylines around. I don't think they're really consistent with it, like the clip you said or showed us a little while ago showed. I don't know. I haven't had enough time to really think about that because you just sprung that question on me. But yeah, it's a weird thing, right? It's seems like a very hard line thing for a organization like Starfleet to take to me. So
all right,
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
I would say that it probably falls under a category like they're suggesting that since her little splicing thing is not a permanent change, that it doesn't count. That's
but they're still dealing with genetic augmentation.
Well, they've done it. They did it in Next Gen also, like with Riker in First Contact, the episode First Contact with Riker.
But like it also wears off after a few hours, so it's not that she's permanently changing your DNA. Like whatever she does to you, it wears off in a few hours. And so she's not rewriting your DNA.
Unless you're
We
Spock, and then it doesn't last.
we saw that clip of from the Major Grins episode where Bashir says that there are certain exceptions of the no genetic alteration stuff in Starfleet law. But I'm just wondering, like, if there was a genetic augmentation that could basically wipe out all disease for humanity, wouldn't Starfleet want that, or wouldn't at least Star Trek crews be inoculated for that? Brian, what do you think of that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea, and who knows? Maybe that's how medicine works in the future. Maybe they genetically alter some things to, like, act as vaccines. I don't know, but the only thing from watching that Major Grim video, the only consistent thing in that entire video, like everything, literally everything, from not just from series to series, but from episodes to episodes, were wrong, except for one thing: they hate genetic manipulation. They hate it. Federation hates it. That's the one thing that's been consistent throughout every series, is that they don't want augments. So I have to assume that that eugenic wars, whatever, were so bad and so devastating that
well, yeah, look at how bad the 90s were, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That they will never forget it for some reason. And it takes hundreds of years for them to get over this bias toward genetic engineering. I have to assume that.
All right,
that's
Danny.
the one thing that was consistent.
Danny, what do you think about this idea?
I think it's just like a plot device that they use. I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think that if you have like this Federation of planets who's got I mean, unless you go back to Spock's line of oh gosh, what was it? It was in that video. Somebody in chat said it about the superior intellect breeds superior ambition or something like that.
Yeah.
In Bashir's line that they played over and over again in that video, which I thought was funny, was like the exceptions only like with birth defects. So, I guess a baby wouldn't have, any kind of ambition because it's a baby.
Or being blind, maybe.
Yeah. Like Geordi. Yeah. There's a lot of it that just doesn't. I mean, this is a whole bigger thing than S&W.
Well,
you know what I mean?
What gets me, Danny, is that so we've established in Discovery and to a certain extent in Strange New Worlds that there are like bionic enhancements, right? Like Geordi has his like bionic eyes in future Star Trek movies.
Yeah, and
you have people who have entire robotic bodies.
Yeah, that cybernetic chick on Discovery. I stopped watching
in Discovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, why is Starfleet okay with the synthetic augmentation but not the genetic augmentation?
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't make sense.
This sounds like a question for a Star Trek panel when Kurtzman's up there.
Yeah.
Somebody write this down, and it would completely screw him up. He probably wouldn't even know how to answer the question.
Yeah.
It'd be hilarious.
But you know what I love, guys? Isn't it great that the five of us can nerd out with like 30 to 60 people in the chat, and we're kind of we're enjoying Star Trek again, but yet we're still like having these
arguing
deep
like nerds.
dive. Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's awesome, man.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, guys, the last topic of discussion that I want to ask the panel about is something that kind of relates to what we just talked about with Starfleet's hard line against genetic augmentation. And if you guys remember, I know you kind of blocked it out probably, but the first season of Star Trek Picard, Starfleet also took a hard line against all synthetics because
exactly. I was saying that
Mars got attacked and the shipyards on Mars got destroyed.
Mars got attacked.
Yeah, Mars got attacked. The shipyard on Mars got attacked, and basically a lot of people died, and it was a big tragedy. And so Starfleet basically said, okay, no more synthetics. Synthetics are illegal, much like they did with the genetic augmentation.
And of course, Picard took his consistent stance that he wants synthetic.
Yes, Michael, it is.
Yeah. So basically, you have this situation where there's a history of Starfleet taking hard lines on this stuff. So my question to you guys is when the attack on Mars happened, and it was so devastating. So many people died, and it set Starfleet back on the shipyard front and stuff like that. Why didn't Starfleet commission a elite team to slingshot around the sun, go back in time, and stop that tragedy from happening?
Temporal Prime Directive.
Yeah, the time cops.
That would be too easy.
Then that means that season 2 of Picard should never have happened, right?
I mean, basically, what you're saying is every time something bad happens, they just need to like do a slingshot around the sun and go back and fix it.
Yeah.
That should be Starfleet's only job. Just slingshot police. Let's just go.
Well, they were
fix the
also
timeline.
acting. They were acting outside of the. They that was not a Starfleet sanctioned thing. I'm not defending Picard was terrible, but
I mean, what I'm saying though is like when you have such a huge tragedy happen, right? Starfleet could hand select certain people to go back in time and fix it, and because Picard season 2 proved that we have the knowledge of how to go back in time. Why don't we do that?
You're just trying to cause problems, Matthew.
No. I can answer that because Starfleet is they're Siths, basically. They deal in absolutes. They have these rules that must be followed, and the only time that people have slingshotted around the sun, you've got Kirk, who's never, he's always like, Starfleet be damned. And what did he get? Remember, he did get punished for that. His punishment was losing his admiralship and becoming captain of the Enterprise, which really wasn't a punishment.
No.
Yeah, right? And then in Picard, they didn't even know about it. Picard didn't do like Kirk did, like when Kirk sent a message to Starfleet and said, hey, this is what we're going to do, deal with it. And then, but Picard just did it. You know what I mean? And not only did he do it, he did it with a freaking Borg Queen, which was retarded.
I fell asleep last night watching the old original series episode. I believe it was called Tomorrow is Yesterday. And that's ridiculous. I didn't make it to the end, and I kind of forget what happens because it's been so long. But the way they just make up this arbitrary shit about, we got stuck in this gravity thing from this star, and all of a sudden we're on Earth in 1957 or whatever it was, and they beamed the pilot to the ship, and it's just this whole thing, and my eyes were rolling in the back of my head.
What's funny? That's a
Dan,
DC
hold on.
Fontana episode, by the way.
Yeah. I want to hear what Brian has to say. He's been patient.
Vader, you're right. And here's the problem with time travel. I'm gonna quote Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon, you guys know who Dan Harmon is, right?
Oh yeah, Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty, Community.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, a bunch of other stuff. He said science fiction should never deal with time travel, and Rick and Morty will never do time travel because no one really ever gets time travel right unless you're existing in a very small universe. The second you open it up, it's impossible to control. It's Pandora's box, dude. And I said it, I'm going to say it again. The fact that the Romulans use a type of engine that makes them time travel randomly is the stupidest thing ever. It's dumb. The fact that you can just randomly get caught in a gravity well and end up in 1967 is stupid. None of that should have never happened. If I can go back in time and fix one thing in Star Trek, it wouldn't be Discovery or any of the stuff that most people complain about. It would be stop time travel. No time travel episodes. No time travel. Time travel shouldn't be possible. I like what the Paul said in Enterprise. No, Captain, it can't be time travel because time travel isn't possible. They should never do it.
Yeah, I agree with the Vulcans. Time travel.
They should never do it. The second they introduced that in TOS is when a lot of stuff goes off the rails.
Could the Klingons conceivably use that planet full of time crystals to go back in time and conquer the universe?
Yes, it's so stupid.
Right?
The Borg. Dude, the Borg. How many times did we beat the Borg? Yeah. When the Borg can just go back in time and just like come get us when we can't beat them. They win automatically. That's why it's dumb. That's why time travel is so dumb. They should never do time travel, dude.
Never do it. Never do it again. Never.
It would all end up being Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I love the concept of time travel because if you're like a genius writer, you can make some really cool, independent, individual stories out of time travel. But this is a franchise spanning like 70 years. And they have played fun and loose with time travel the whole time. And it drives me nuts.
the point I was trying to make here is that so in Star Trek 4, the Enterprise crew goes back in time to save the entire planet, and that justifies the use of time travel because otherwise, like all of Earth would have been destroyed. So Starfleet has this knowledge, and in season 2 of Picard, the crew of the La Sirena knows this, and they access that knowledge, and they're basically like, okay, in order to save this, the planet or the galaxy, basically, we have to go back in time and fix these things.
Right.
So my question basically becomes, every time there's this huge tragedy, whether it's the Romulan sun going supernova or the Mars attack that destroyed the shipyard or whatever, why doesn't Starfleet at least have like hearings to debate whether or not they should go back in time and fix this type of stuff?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I
Every
agree
time
too.
something bad happened in Star Trek, I was like, well, I can solve this problem just by slingshotting around the sun.
And why bother with that? Just go to the Guardian of Forever.
Right.
Yeah,
So
right.
Don't the second you introduce this like super OP method and then never use it when it's important, it just doesn't make any sense.
I really wish they wouldn't have mixed, like, you've got, it's already fantastical, it's already science fiction, we're already in space. We didn't need to throw time travel in it, and that has always been a
ruins
bummer.
everything.
Yeah, because like once you throw time travel into it, it fucks everything up, man. Like there's no way to be, it just opens up so many, it just opens Pandora's box, and I just wish they would avoid it.
And guys, I'm criticizing it from the point of view of a guy who's gotten like 4 million views on videos talking about time travel. I'm telling you, I mean, I like the topic, but it doesn't. It almost never works in TV shows.
Yeah,
it would have been great. Star Trek 4 would have been the best movie ever, as if they just flew right into the sun and died.
And didn't they use a Klingon ship in Star Trek 4?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I also find Brian's quote from Dan Harmon kind of funny because Rick and Morty is based off of Back to the Future. So
right, but
they do parallel universe jumps.
Yeah, right. They made a point. They made a point of saying we don't do time travel. And there's in the latest episode, there's this box that's been in his garage for the entire time, and then on the box it's written time travel stuff. And in this latest episode, someone asked him what it is. He goes, "That's time travel stuff. We don't touch time travel stuff." And it was almost like a meta joke, like he was talking to the audience.
I like how you called Morty Marty. That's funny.
Morty.
Dan Harmon's good at the meta stuff. So, guys, before we get out of here, I want to go around the panel and get your take on the latest Orville Season 3 trailer that dropped this week, where basically we got the whole Force be with you, may the Force be with you gag and all that stuff. Are you guys looking forward to Orville Season 3? And what are you expecting from it? Vader, let's start with you.
I am looking forward to the Orville Season 3. I hope we can actually discuss it here when it's out on this weekly show with you guys. I think I'm going to need to find some time to go back and rewatch seasons 1 and 2, at least season 2, to pick up on the war timeline and stuff that they had. And
with the Kylo or whatever they're called.
The 2-part episode.
The two. Oh, I mean, I guess maybe I got to go.
the Kylons, right? Kylons.
Kylons. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. What do I expect? I expect. I kind of feel like what we're getting from the trailers, a bigger budgeted, more overarching storyline series. That's kind of what I expect. Other than that, I really don't have a whole lot of expectations for it. I just want a fun show, and that's always kind of what I feel like they've been trying to give us. So. I don't have a lot of expectations. I just want to enjoy it, and I think I probably will from what I've seen. I love the whole "May the Force be with you" gag in his inspirational speech that he did. That was funny to me. It was funny. So yeah, just give me more of that. I'm good. So.
Yeah, and it is funny because the Orville in their season finale dealt with time travel and alternate timelines and stuff like that, but they did it really well. Michael, what do you think of the upcoming season of the Orville, and what are your predictions for it?
My predictions is Orville it looks all right. I think Orville's going to fail. Just being honest. And don't get me wrong, I like the Orville overall, but I do think it's going to fail because it looks like it's too much of a change in format. And it's also been too long of a wait. It's been 2.5 years since we've had new Orville.
How do you mean the change in format? How do you mean that? What do you mean by that?
It's going from episodic to serialized. B, they're going from a contained Federation type universe, with the Union and all that, to now we've got to go explore and find new allies in our war against the Kalon. That looks like that's going to be the overarching story.
Mhm.
I just don't know that it looks like it's geared towards pre-existing fans of the Orville. And since it's been 2.5 years, I think some of those fans are going to drop off. And that means that they've got to get new fans to the Hulu platform. I don't know that they can pull it off. And so, and then they've obviously stepped up the action quotient and everything for this season from the looks of it. Or at least that's what they're marketing it as. It looks much more Star Warsy than Star Trekky. And I think that's why they threw the May the Force Be With You line in there as a direct nod to that. And yeah, it's clever, it's funny, but is that a recipe for success right now? I don't know. I don't know that it is. Especially given that Star Trek is kind of on the rebound right now. So I hope for the best for it, but I am not overly optimistic for the future of the Orville.
All right, Brian, what do you think of the Orville season 3, and what are your predictions?
Yeah, I have a similar, less pessimistic point of view. Wow. So good news is Shane and I actually got invited. I'm not sure if I can say this. I'm just gonna say
put it on Twitter.
Oh, we did? Cool. Shane and I got invited to the premiere next week.
Nice.
Oh, you punk.
Red carpet premiere, bro. Yep.
Wow.
And I won't be able to make it because I have a pre-existing problem.
Can I go for you?
Yeah, I was about to say, can I go for you?
I think Shane's taking one of our guys. But Shane's going for sure. And I was actually super bummed out that I couldn't go. I was like, really? It had to be that day, huh? Okay. But I am excited for the new season. I am. And I really hope it's awesome. But I don't like the switch of format, just like you, Mike. I think that episodic. Here's the right way to do. If you want, you can have your cake and eat it too. If you do episodic content with underlying story arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to bring this up all the time, but Supernatural, whether you're a fan or not, did it perfectly. They literally had a literal Monster of the Week episodes where they concluded a story, but they used that story to somehow drive a season arc forward. And it was perfect. And maybe you don't like that type of content, but it was written in a way that gave you satisfaction every week, but also left you wondering what was going to happen the following week. It left you on the edge of your seat for what's up with this character, what's going on here. It was a perfect mix of episodic and serialized.
Sounds like you're talking about Buffy.
Well, they're kind of doing that.
Buffy did the same thing. Yeah.
They're kind of doing that with Strange New Worlds with Pike. I mean, it's episodic.
So they're kind of doing it, but it's like, so like if Buffy and Supernatural were like 50-50 episodic serialized, I would say Strange New World is 80-20.
See, I've never watched either of those shows. So.
X-Files is a good example of that, where they would have their mythology episodes that kind of contributed to an overarching storyline, but week to week it was like a different adventure. Danny, what is your take?
One more quick question. One more thing. I'm sorry. I agree with Mike too. Watching the trailer, it did feel like the shift in tone was pretty drastic,
mm-hmm.
and it almost made me feel like maybe they go, we're just gonna put it all on the table and get everything done we've always wanted to do, because like we're already striking the sets. You know what I mean?
Are they really? Yeah. Is this the last season?
We don't know.
So we don't know. But the interesting point to that, Adrian Palicki in a podcast said that they wrapped season 3 and it's really sad that this is the end of the chapter for her. She made a family, but but this is the end. And then Gordon, what's his name? The guy who plays Gordon was in another show where he said pretty much the same thing, and he said he was even talking to his agent about getting maybe another job on another starship because it was so fun. The fact that that two of the big three characters are talking about not having a job after season 3 is, I mean, listen, money can move mountains. So if everyone just flocks to this thing and it's a huge success, then none of that matters. But the cards feels like the cards are pointing to, like, there's no plans for a season 4 right now.
I did see a thing on YouTube. I forget the channel, where he interviewed Seth MacFarlane this week.
Yeah, JP.
And yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah. Go ahead. I'll drop it then.
Yeah, Danny, what are your predictions for season 3, and what did you think of the season 3 trailer?
Well, I'm one of the guys that Michael was talking about. Like, I'm a huge. I love the Orville. I did reviews for the Orville for a couple different websites for the first 2 seasons, like written reviews, not video ones, and I loved it. Like, I've said that Strange New Worlds is the best Trek we've had in 2 decades, but back then I was saying that the Orville is the best Star Trek we've had in a couple decades. I really, really enjoyed the Orville, and I'm actually excited for its run on Hulu, because on Hulu, Seth MacFarlane can be untethered. We can get longer episodes. We can get more adult themes. We can get cussing. We can get it can be like whatever. Not that any of that stuff's going to happen. I'm just saying that because they're not on network television anymore, the reins are off, and I'm hoping that will help, with the entertainment value. But I'm really bummed to hear that it doesn't sound like they're going to get a 4th season, because I've been waiting for so long for this 3rd season. It's called New Horizons. I felt like this was going to be a new start in a way, in that maybe we'd get this serialized season just to kind of finish up this Kalon story arc, and then season 4 would start getting back onto episode. Because I freaking loved the Orville, like, a lot, and I've been sorely missing it. And the trailer, like, I didn't feel really a difference in tone. It seemed like everybody was still goofy. Everybody was like, it's still like the, I don't know. I just I'm looking forward to watching it, and if it's all we get, I hope it's good and that it ends on a good note. But I liked it a lot, and I am very much looking forward to watching the Orville. So,
all right, and I want to give a shout out to another YouTuber. His name's JT. He does a channel called Talking the Orville. I'd highly recommend, if you're an Orville fan, go check it out. I've known JT for years. He's a great guy.
Gunter? JT Gunter?
It's JP.
JP, sorry. Basically, he recently interviewed basically the entire cast of the Orville. Like, he had one-on-one discussions with Seth MacFarlane and all these other guys. And in his interview with Seth MacFarlane, I think it's pretty clear that there's no season 4 currently planned. The shift here seems to be that, according to Seth MacFarlane, every episode of the Orville in season 3 they treated like its own standalone movie. So, like, the episodes are going to be longer. They're going to be more effects heavy. It's going to be a shorter season. The previous episodic Orville episodes was like a full season of TV. This is going to be a truncated season. It's going to be behind a paywall. And basically, Seth MacFarlane said that if there's enough support, if enough people come and watch the show and give it the numbers it needs, then season 4 is not off the table. But as of now, this is all the Orville that we can expect to get. So,
can someone share the link to that? I would love to watch that video.
I'll get it to you later.
Okay.
I'll go find it.
Just go on YouTube, search Talking the Orville. You'll find his channel. He's got it on there. But JP does fantastic coverage. Like, his whole channel is just based around the Orville. And for his sake, I hope it goes back for more seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I told him that yesterday. I was like,
I would.
As down as I am, I really hope we get season 4, because you work really hard.
Yeah, I would love to have him on the panel when we talk about Orville and stuff like that. So maybe I'll reach out to him. But there is going to be a drastic shift in the format and the look and feel of the episodes. It's going to be a story about the Orville trying to find allies against the Kalon and all that stuff. So it's basically Seth envisioned a more kind of like overarching, bigger movie style season than what we got previously, and it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. I also heard that it's going to be a little bit more dramatic and less like humor based, even though the trailer had some like good funny moments in it. It's going to be a lot more serious in season 3 from what I've heard. I could be wrong about that, but I'm looking forward to it, but I don't think we can expect to get a season 4 as of right now, unfortunately. Anyway, guys, I want to thank my expert panel for coming in. I want to thank everyone who showed up in the chat for participating, especially those of you who gave us super chats. It was very generous of you guys. We really appreciate the support. Let's go around the panel and get some info on final thoughts of episode 3 and where they can find you. Danny, let's start with you. What are your final thoughts of episode 3 of Strange New Worlds, and where can people find out more about you?
Final thoughts for Strange New Worlds, episode 3. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm a shill waiting for that check to clear. So that's all I'll say about that. As far as where you can find me, right here on all the socials, Dork Knight LV. I did want to take a second to thank R2 for his comment in the chat about the video that Kadish put out for Nerds Never Say Die and the Las Vegas Cosplayers Alliance, where we were highlighting Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm thrilled that people are enjoying it and getting something out of it, and I'm very, very, very appreciative of you salty nerds helping us out with that. That was really amazing. So if you want to learn more about me, just follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. We're on the saltynerddiscord.com. And if you want to learn more about my charity, it's cossplayersalliance.org, and that's CAUSE, because we cosplay for a cause. So, thanks.
All right. Now, Brian, where can people find out more about you, and what are your final thoughts for episode 3?
Yeah, final thoughts is a good episode. Very Trek. Lot to unpackage. I do hope that they start introducing a little serialization to the show, because that's what Trekkies thrive on, theory crafting, and yeah, overall good. I really feel like the first 5 episodes are going to be great, and so for me, the undiscovered countries, no pun intended, is going to be after episode 5. You can find me on youtube.com/thepopcast, and just to throw this out there, if you guys want to see all my math and all my sources on the Orville thing, the video we did, I put in chat. You can also find it on my channel. It's the last Orville video we made. It's called Orville Will End Unless, or something like that. And it basically, it shows all the podcasts, it shows all the tweets, and it shows all the quote unquote proof that, we need a really strong season 3 in order to get season 4.
Yeah.
Really quick here.
Super chat
from Fluffy Panda for $2. Thank you so much. Season 4 easy fix. Seth dies off and Idris Elba is the new captain.
Nice.
Why does Idris Elba fix everything?
Because he's Idris Elba.
Because he's
Yeah.
I've seen it something.
I mean, on bookings.com is awesome because Idris Elba.
All right. Salty Trekker, where can people find out more about you, and what are your final thoughts on episode 3?
Well, you can check me out, Salty Trekker, here on YouTube. Also, I'm happy to say I'm helping out the Popcast guys a little bit with their stuff now too, which is cool.
I saw them use your still in a video the other day that I thought was funny.
Yeah, where I was like,
yeah, you were doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm their big-headed think tank now.
Yeah.
So props to you guys, actually, the Salty Nerds, for introducing me to Brian, and that's kind of we got talking after one of these streams, and we were like, hey, we could work together, and so we just started kicking around some ideas and working together on some videos. So yeah, subscribe to Popcast or to me, and we're all good. But thank you to all the hate to my subscribers that have been hating on me for being a shill to Paramount. And Paramount, I'm waiting for that check.
All right. Well, Matt Vader 74. Oh, by the way, before I get to Vader, everyone on the panel, the links to their YouTube channels are linked in the description of this video if you guys want to check them out. Matt Vader 74, where can people find out more about you, and what were your final thoughts on episode 3?
Oh, my final thoughts on episode 3 was that it was just, once again, a fun little jaunt into Star Trek world. I enjoyed it, man. It was good. As long as they can keep up this level of Star Trek, I'm going to be fine with this series. I hope they can do it. I don't know what else to say, really. You can find me here at Matt Vader 74 on Twitter and most of the other social medias that I don't really pay a lot of attention to, but I do Twitter and Facebook. Also, really quick, we're starting to fire up our long dormant and never used Reddit page. We have a subreddit over there on Reddit. Yeah. So if anybody does the Reddit thing, go over and check out the Salty Nerd podcast. I'm very, very new to that Reddit thing. So if anybody is good at that, let me know. Maybe
you might actually get me into Reddit.
Get some stuff. So
I've had people trying to get me into it for years, but
yeah, but I figure the more ways we have to contact and talk to people in places that they like to use and are comfortable with, then the better. If that means I'm spread out everywhere, then that's fine. But so check out the Reddit thing, and you can find me here on our page 3 times a week with our shows, and and all of our live streams and all that stuff, and also over on Discord as well. So
who else
Dennis, we are not on 4chan. No.
Hell no.
Who else got turned on by the idea of Vader being spread out everywhere? That was hot.
Let's be honest, though. You guys
are making it weird.
You guys are on Grindr, and that's okay. It's okay.
Our Batman statue is on OnlyFans, as Michael pointed out. So we are on there. It's called Bulletproof Package on OnlyFans. If you want hot pictures of our Batman statue, that's where you can find them.
What do you guys feel about this? Me dressing up as a Klingon and creating an OnlyFans page for hot, sexy Klingon action.
Hey, why not?
There's an audience for it somewhere.
Action,
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
I just want to remind all of our viewers that this coming Thursday on my live stream at 5 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to be interviewing Kevin J. Anderson. He's the author of all the modern Dune novels, as well as some classic Star Wars novels. He's a very prominent author. He's penned over 150 to 200 books, I think. And I'm going to be talking to him about his career, about Star Wars, about Dune, about all types of stuff. So please be sure to put that in your calendars and tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. He's also got a new book coming out that we're going to be talking about as well. And also thank you to my distinguished panel for coming on. We're probably going to be talking about the Orville once that premieres. And I'll reach out to JP and see if he might want to join us for that. And going forward, we're also going to be trying to figure out what other stuff to talk about on Saturday morning. So if anyone in the chat has any suggestions, feel free to drop them in our Discord server and let us know. Thank you all for the super chats. Thank you all for the participation. We really appreciate it. And tune in next Saturday as we talk about episode 4 of Strange New Worlds. Everyone, stay salty, my friends. Goodbye.